Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we are strapping into a discussion about one of the world's most strategically vital, yet, frequently misunderstood countries,
Mm.
Pakistan.
Hmm.
Our listener brought us a stack of sources that fundamentally challenge the narrative of Pakistan as purely a crisis-prone state.
Exactly. And the core question before us is, well, it's very targeted and profound. How can Pakistan truly maximize its unique geoeconomic and maritime potential,
Right.
particularly leveraging the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, CPEC, to become the essential gateway to Central Asia?
So our mission today is to trace how Pakistan's geography, since its very founding, has always pointed toward a destiny as a pivotal global nexus.
Yeah.
We're blending centuries of classic strategic thought, the kind that shaped world wars, with ultra-modern analysis of infrastructure, trade policy, and the intense regional competition heating up in the Indian Ocean.
It's an exploration of destiny versus execution, really.
That's a great way to put it.
And that deep dive reveals a fundamental truth. Pakistan's strategic reality is defined by an ancient historical trade route that is now being revived by massive modern infrastructure. And to grasp the enormity of this opportunity, we have to start by placing Pakistan at the intersection of the two major power theories that dominated 20th century geopolitics.
Okay, let's unpack this duality because it's the key to understanding why this small region draws such global attention. Geopolitical thinkers traditionally divided the world into the land-based powers of Eurasia and the maritime powers that controlled the sea.
Mhm.
Pakistan uniquely manages to be both.
It is quite literally the ultimate geographical hinge. We start with Alfred Mackinder's foundational work, developed in the early 1900s.
Right.
Mackinder argued that the vast, inaccessible Eurasian landmass, what he called the heartland, was the great strategic prize. He defined the areas controlling access to and from this region as pivot states, or geographical hinges.
And where does Pakistan fall in Mackinder's map? How does it fit?
Well, Pakistan's inland territory, particularly its borders with China and its proximity to the historic Central Asian states, places it perfectly as that pivot state.
I see.
It links the colossal land powers of the Eurasian heartland, specifically China and theoretically Russia, to the periphery, which is controlled by maritime powers.
That sounds like a recipe for perpetual land versus sea conflict right on Pakistan's soil.
It is the ultimate pressure point. For China, Pakistan provides that critical warm water route, allowing access from its western region of Xinjiang directly to the Arabian Sea.
Yeah.
Now, one of our sources offered a fascinating concept referencing Russia potentially viewing Pakistan as a zipper state, a unique position that could, in the future, offer a backdoor access point for Russian goods to warm water ports.
Fulfilling a centuries-old ambition.
A centuries-old geopolitical ambition. Mackinder's theories are alive and well in the CPEC project.
But history suggests Mackinder's focus on the heartland was maybe a bit flawed, which brings us to the counter-argument that defines Pakistan's coastal identity, Nicholas Spykman's rimland theory.
Spykman, yeah. He wrote decades after Mackinder, and he argued that the true prize in Eurasia wasn't the inaccessible, often harsh heartland. He claimed that the coastal belts of Eurasia, the rimland, were the key.
And why was that?
Well, this region contained the majority of the world's population, its richest resources, and most of its industrial capacity.
And his famous dictum was something like, who controls the rimland rules Eurasia. Who rules Eurasia controls the destinies of the world.
Precisely. And Pakistan, with its substantial 1,046-kilometer coastline anchoring the western edge of South Asia on the Arabian Sea, is a quintessential rimland state. It is not just a strategic thoroughfare, it is a critical sentinel of the maritime periphery.
So if we synthesize these two great theories, Pakistan's strategic identity is solidified. It is simultaneously the land corridor linking the Eurasian interior to the sea and the critical maritime anchor that controls the coastal access to that interior.
That dual geographic identity is what amplifies every single political and military decision in Islamabad. That's why the U.S., China, and India all view this country as utterly indispensable to regional control. No other country in South Asia holds this specific mix of landlocked access and coastal presence.
This inherent conflict, land power versus sea power, sounds like an invitation to endless proxy wars, which is pretty much what we see in the region today.
It does.
Yet the sources propose a novel way out through a concept called geopolinomics.
That's where the geopolinomic concept, or geoeconomic, enters the picture. It proposes a conscious effort towards simultaneous cooperation between the heartlands and the rimlands,
Okay.
using economic interdependence as the overriding strategic mechanism. It attempts to intersect classic geopolitics with modern economics.
That sounds inherently idealistic given the history of conflict we just established. I mean, how does GCP propose to overcome deep political rivalries simply through trade?
Its strength lies in its realism, actually. It's anchored in historical evidence and current necessity. The goal is regional economic integration, driven by high-efficiency transit routes.
So instead of seeing China's need for ports as a military threat.
Exactly. GCP frames it as a shared economic opportunity for transit, for tariffs, and for industrial integration, particularly for the landlocked Central Asian republics.
So the mechanism is creating such profound interdependence through trade infrastructure that the economic cost of conflict outweighs the perceived strategic gain of containment.
That's it, exactly. And Pakistan, as the Indus Basin state, plays the central role in this model. The cooperation mechanism is not just hypothetical either. It relies on established regional economic bodies, like the Economic Cooperation Organization, or ECO, to institutionalize shared infrastructure standards, customs agreements, and currency facilitation.
So it provides the structure to bridge conflicting political interests with new forms of economic dependency. To truly validate this idea of Pakistan as the natural gateway, a gateway defined by economic cooperation rather than military tension, we have to look back long before modern states, right? To prove this north-south connectivity is not some accident of CPEC, but a geographic inevitability.
We must. We have to look back nearly 2,000 years to the Kushan Empire, a civilization that perfectly modeled the kind of land-sea linkage GSAP-B envisions.
Okay.
The Kushan Empire, flourishing roughly between 100 AD and 500 AD, encompassed regions spanning modern Central Asia, Afghanistan, and Pakistan.
So a major land power centered in the Eurasian interior. How did it access the global maritime system?
Through the Indus Basin, they utilized the Indus coastal harbor of Barbarican. The ruins of this critical port are near modern-day Karachi, now locally called Bombor. Barbarican served as a major commercial outlet and a bustling emporium. It was a primary transit point for the historic Silk roads.
It's incredible to think that the ancient Silk routes, which linked China and Central Asia all the way to the Roman Empire and the Mediterranean, relied on this same Arabian Sea port route that is now being modernized via Gwadar.
It proves the deep historical pedigree of this north-south connectivity. You know, when the Soviet Union collapsed, it left the Central Asian states, the cars landlocked and dependent on aging, often inefficient, unidirectional transportation infrastructure pointing only toward Russia.
Right.
The GCAP strategy, realized through CPEC, is simply relinking these states to their most cost-effective, shortest, and traditional historic routes in Southwest Asia via the warm waters of the Arabian Sea.
Geography, in this case, is indeed destiny.
It is, but that destiny requires massive policy execution.
That geographical destiny and the imperative to maximize it brings us squarely to the sea itself. We've established that Pakistan is a rimland anchor, but for decades, it has operated primarily as a land power focused on its land borders. So why is focusing on the maritime domain so critically important right now? Why is the sea the key to unlocking its economic potential?
Because the global economy is fundamentally a maritime economy. Oceans facilitate over 90% of global trade. The overall global value of the ocean economy is estimated at a staggering USD 24 trillion globally.
Wait, 4 trillion.
And that figure is projected to double by 2030. This isn't just about shipping. It's about massive economic engines, from deep-sea energy reserves like oil and gas mining to global telecommunications cables.
And as Alfred Thayer Mahan famously argued over a century ago, national greatness is inextricably associated with the sea, connecting commercial strength in peacetime with necessary control in war.
Absolutely. And Pakistan is not just on the ocean. It is positioned at the intersection of the most critical and contested body of water globally, the Indian Ocean region, or IOR.
Okay, let's define the states in the IOR. Why is it constantly referred to as the Sea of Troubles, and why does Pakistan's location amplify those troubles?
The IOR is vast. It's the third largest ocean. Critically, it hosts 2/3 of the world's proven oil reserves and a significant portion of natural gas deposits. It facilitates about 90,000 commercial vessels annually, carrying billions of tons of global goods. It provides the shortest and most economical routes connecting the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans.
So control of the IOR means control of global energy and trade flows.
It does. And you have immense commercial value mixed with the high-stakes geopolitical tensions of the Indo-Pak rivalry and the accelerating China-US rivalry.
It creates a volatile environment.
A very volatile environment. The security threats are multi-layered, ranging from piracy, maritime terrorism, and narcotics smuggling to major conventional naval rivalries. The sheer volume of maritime traffic through key choke points only increases the region's vulnerability to disruption.
Any interruption here sends global energy and trade prices skyrocketing. Now let's quantify Pakistan's specific maritime assets to drive home the scale of opportunity. What is the physical extent of the domain it controls?
Pakistan currently controls approximately 290,058 square kilometers of seawaters. This includes its exclusive economic zone and its extended continental shelf. This size makes it a significant littoral state, possessing a crucial coast area ratio of 1:36.
What does that ratio of 1:36 actually mean for the average listener? I mean, how do we conceptualize that?
It means the maritime area that Pakistan manages and controls is 36 times larger than its coastal landmass.
Wow.
For strategic planning, this reverses the traditional focus. The sea is not just a border to be defended, it is a resource reservoir and a domain of immense national jurisdiction, far exceeding its land territory and size.
And despite this massive potential, the sources suggest immense underperformance. How much money are we leaving on the table?
Well, the estimated annual maritime potential, if fully leveraged through a comprehensive blue revolution, is valued at a staggering USD 7.5 billion.
$7.5 billion.
And when you consider the meager 0.4% contribution of the fisheries sector to the GDP, a figure we will return to, this $7.5 billion potential highlights decades of strategic neglect.
Beyond the raw numbers, the location dictates its importance, particularly concerning energy flow.
Its single most vital strategic asset is its proximity to the Strait of Hormuz. We're talking about the choke point through which roughly 20% of global oil passes.
Right.
That proximity establishes Pakistan as a frontline guardian of global energy security and positions its ports as the most viable alternative transit hub for Gulf traffic entering Asia, especially for China. This strategic location is the primary driver behind the CPEC investment.
Okay, so CPEC is the physical manifestation of Pakistan attempting to fulfill its pivot rimland destiny. It's the operational nexus where theory meets concrete investment. Let's start with China's primary motivation, which the sources frame as an acute strategic necessity, not just, economic ambition.
The motivation is energy anxiety. It's often referred to as the Malacca dilemma.
The Malacca dilemma.
China is the world's largest oil importer. The critical vulnerability is that almost 84% of China's oil imports must pass through one single, narrow maritime choke point, the Strait of Malacca.
That strait is notorious. It's only about 22 miles wide at its narrowest, making it incredibly easy to blockade or disrupt.
Critically, that choke point is bordered by states that are heavily allied with or share deep security links with the United States. For China's strategists, the possibility of a naval blockade during a conflict scenario, what they call the Malacca dilemma, represents an existential threat to their economy and energy supply. They lack alternative direct access to the Indian Ocean.
So CPEC, linking Gwadar to Kashmir in Xinjiang, is fundamentally a massive insurance policy and a strategic bypass.
That's it.
How much distance are we actually talking about saving, and how does that translate into actionable time and money saved?
The distance saved is substantial. By utilizing Gwadar instead of sending oil shipments around India and through Malacca, the route from the Gulf region to western China is reduced by an estimated 10,000 to 12,000 kilometers.
10 to 12,000 kilometers.
This saves weeks of transit time and substantially reduces the fuel and insurance costs associated with traversing contested waters.
That is massive strategic and economic leverage. Gwadar Port then becomes the physical anchor for this rimland strategy.
Absolutely. Gwadar, which was acquired by Pakistan from Oman back in 1958, is being developed specifically as a deep-water port capable of handling massive modern container and oil vessels. It is intended to serve not only as a local port, but as a massive transit and transshipment hub, taking pressure off the overcrowded ports of Karachi and Port Qasim.
What specific capacity has been realized so far, and what makes it superior for Central Asian traffic?
So, Phase I included the construction of 3 multi-purpose berths, each 200 meters long, designed for general cargo. But the port's geographical advantage is paramount for the landlocked heartland states.
Okay.
Its construction immediately reduces the overland distances for Central Asian traffic by approximately 500 kilometers compared to going through Karachi.
A 500-kilometer reduction is significant in logistics. I mean, that could potentially save days of travel time to Central Asian capitals.
It creates a major competitive advantage. And furthermore, the economic impact on Pakistan itself is projected to be transformational. Sources estimate the CPEC project and associated industrial zones have the potential to create up to 2 million jobs,
2 million jobs.
which provides a necessary impetus to an economy where 95% of its international trade is dependent on these sea routes.
For Gwadar to succeed, though, the infrastructure connecting the port to the heartland must be world-class. It means replacing the ancient, rugged caravan routes with modern engineering.
The land component of CPEC is an enormous undertaking. The plan involves revamping the historical north-south connectivity corridors. The Karakoram Highway, N35, which directly connects to western China, is undergoing a massive transformation with substantial Chinese assistance.
How much are we talking?
About a $200 million revamp, to ensure it is capable of year-round, weather-fair passage, overcoming the harsh mountainous terrain that previously limited trade flow.
It's incredible to think we're modernizing routes that were literally the Silk Road, paths built by empires 2,000 years ago. Has modern engineering truly solved the problem of year-round mountain travel?
The goal is to minimize disruption dramatically. While, geography is never fully defeated, the investment in tunnels, bridges, and better surfacing ensures that high-volume, continuous container traffic can pass reliably. And the connectivity plan extends far beyond China's border. It targets the entire Central Asian region.
Tell us about the links into Afghanistan and the cars.
The infrastructure links Gwadar to key border crossings like Shuman. From there, road and rail extensions are planned to major Afghan cities, Kandahar, Herat, and Kabul, and eventually linking all the way up to Central Asian capitals like Tashkent in Uzbekistan and Ashgabat in Turkmenistan. This network connects the Kars, Iran, and the Gulf Cooperation Council states directly to the Arabian Sea.
This network should substantially increase the regional trade volume. What figures validate the economic necessity of CPEC for the heartland states?
Well, the existing regional trade showed massive potential even before CPEC's main phases were completed. For example, Afghanistan-Pakistan trade had already reached $1.2 billion by early 2006.
Okay.
Future forecasts project substantial cargo volumes from China, the Kars, and Afghanistan, with millions of tons of goods potentially moving through Gwadar.
And crucially, the potential revenue stream for Pakistan, just from being the transit state, from allowing those goods to pass through. Our sources had a confusing figure here. Can we clarify the expected annual transit fee revenue?
Yes, it's important to clarify that figure. The estimate in one source was listed as $1,000 million per year, which, that translates simply and accurately to $1 billion USD annually.
$1 billion a year, just in transit fees.
Just in transit fees, port services, and tariffs, generated simply by facilitating cargo movement from the heartland to the sea and vice versa. And this revenue is projected to increase substantially as industrial zones develop and trade capacity expands. This $1 billion is the baseline opportunity for Pakistan to act as the primary catalyst for regional prosperity and trade.
This immense geoeconomic opportunity immediately placed Pakistan and CPEC squarely at the center of a global power tussle. The project didn't just become an economic corridor, it became a regional flashpoint, a modern-day battleground for Mackinder's heartland versus Spykman's rimland.
It's the classic confrontation, fully modernized. The alignment is stark. The China-Pakistan alliance promoting the BRICPEC vision is pitted directly against the U.S.-India alliance, which views the corridor as a direct strategic threat designed to diminish their influence in the IOR.
And the U.S. strategy seems aimed at containment, viewing BRI and CPEC as part of China's expansionist desire and a fundamental challenge to the established global leadership model based on maritime dominance.
Precisely. This led to the rapid development of containment policies. The U.S.'s shift from the Asia pivot to broader strategies like the formation of the Quadrilateral Security Dialogue, or QE,
Right, the QE.
involving the U.S., India, Japan, and Australia, and later the RU Security Pact, are all seen as concerted efforts to counter China's maritime and economic expansion in the Indo-Pacific.
How do these containment strategies specifically target Pakistan and CPEC in the IOR?
They strengthen India's hand in the Indian Ocean. The containment policies are designed to maintain U.S. naval superiority and restrict China's access. This context makes India's opposition to CPEC far more potent, transforming what was a local border rivalry into a global strategic challenge.
And India openly opposes CPEC. Why do they perceive the Gwadar development as such an existential threat?
India sees itself as the indispensable net security guarantor of the IOR littoral states. They view the Chinese presence and the operationalization of Gwadar not as economic development, but through the lens of a string-of-pearls strategy.
String of pearls.
A perceived effort by China to build a network of ports like Gwadar, Hambantota in Sri Lanka, and Djibouti to strategically encircle India. Now, China and Pakistan vehemently deny this claim, stating the focus is purely on economic transit.
But regardless of the denial, this perception has spurred a serious Sino-Indian maritime great game right on Pakistan's doorstep.
Absolutely. The Great Game is visible in the naval buildups. Gwadar, supported by the Chinese Navy, or Plan, is countered by India's strategic buildup around its Andaman and Nicobar Islands, which are located near the Malacca Strait choke point. Those islands are crucial for monitoring and potentially interdicting traffic coming from the South China Sea.
And the Pakistani and Chinese navies have actively deepened their cooperation to meet this challenge.
They have. We see intensified cooperation demonstrated by highly visible joint exercises like Sea Guardians 2020, which are critical for increasing interoperability, sharing domain awareness, and practicing sea control and anti-piracy operations. It signals a unified presence in the Western Indian Ocean.
The threat is not just conventional naval rivalry, though. CPEC faces immense operational challenges related to internal security, particularly in Balochistan, where Gwadar is located.
The security concerns in Balochistan are formidable tasks for CPEC implementation. The corridor runs through sensitive, often rugged territory, and Pakistan has consistently accused external actors, particularly India, of fomenting terrorism, separatism, and localized insurgencies, specifically to disrupt and ultimately sabotage the project.
And we must remember our impartiality here, but the sources do provide specific high-profile examples backing Pakistan's claims of interference. This really demonstrates the gravity of the containment game.
Yes, the most salient example is the arrest of Indian naval commander Kulbhushan Yadav, who was allegedly using the alias Hussein Patel, detained in Balochistan in 2016.
Okay.
According to Pakistani authorities, Yadav was a serving officer assigned specifically to coordinate and execute disruptive operations against CPEC and its related infrastructure, particularly Gwadar.
The seriousness of this case escalated dramatically, didn't it? It even reached the international stage.
It did. The case was taken to the International Court of Justice, the ICJ. Pakistan viewed the arrests and the subsequent legal battle as concrete proof of foreign state-sponsored espionage aimed at crippling a civilian infrastructure project. This incident transforms the security barrier from a localized insurgency to an active state-level sabotage.
And then Prime Minister Modi's public statements add an inflammatory layer to this.
In 2016, Modi publicly acknowledged supporting Balak separatists, which Pakistan viewed as a direct and unacceptable infringement on their sovereignty and territorial integrity.
Right.
There are also documented accusations that India has used Afghan soil to shelter and facilitate militant elements specifically tasked with disrupting CPEC. These actions ensure that CPEC remains a security vulnerability, where success hinges entirely on Pakistan's ability to secure the routes against both internal dissent and external interference.
Given the immense potential, that $7.5 billion annual maritime opportunity, the Central Asian Gateway status, the CPEC investment, and the equally immense security risks inherent in this rimland power game, what is the strategy for Pakistan to finally capitalize on this unique dual identity? The sources stress that the Blue Revolution is the only path forward, emphasizing that maritime modernization is no longer optional.
That phrase is the core takeaway. It requires a fundamental strategic shift. Pakistan must move beyond viewing the Arabian Sea purely as a defensive necessity against a historical rival and start viewing it as the primary, modern engine for sustained economic growth, regional influence, and global connectivity.
This means redefining what maritime power actually means.
Sure.
We mentioned Alfred Thayer Mahan, who defined sea power primarily through the strength of the battle fleet, but modern maritime power is far more encompassing, modeled perhaps after China's comprehensive approach.
Mahan emphasized strategic control through decisive battles, focusing heavily on the Navy. Modern maritime power, however, requires a complete ecosystem. It comprises not just the Navy, but also a significantly expanded and influential Coast Guard, a robust, privately managed merchant marine fleet, a modern and technologically advanced fishing fleet, and a capable domestic shipbuilding industry.
So it's everything.
It's everything. It also includes the high-tech capacity to exploit marine resources, like deep-sea oil, gas, and mineral deposits. Pakistan must build capacity across all these interconnected domains simultaneously.
Let's get concrete and look at the economic opportunities being underperformed. You mentioned fisheries, which account for a mere 0.4% share of Pakistan's GDP. That's massive underperformance for a country with a 1,046-kilometer coastline.
It is abysmal, especially when you consider the potential for exporting high-value fish products to massive markets like China, which is one of the world's major importers. The policy failure here is multifaceted. It's regulatory, technological, and defensive.
So what specific policy adjustments are needed to unlock the fisheries sector?
The Pakistan Navy, the PN, and the Maritime Security Agency, the PMSA, must take an active role in two areas: enforcement and development.
Okay.
Enforcement means rigorously protecting against what's known as IUU fishing. That's illegal, unreported, and unregulated fishing, which costs billions globally. They must safeguard the coasts, especially around Sindh, where 71% of marine resources are extracted, and protect local fishermen from harassment by neighboring states.
And on the development side?
Development requires modernization. They need to provide scientific knowledge, modern fishing techniques, and appropriate durable vessel support to the existing, often outdated fleet of 20,000 fishing boats operating in the exclusive economic zone. This shift from subsistence fishing to high-value export fishing is a cornerstone of the Blue Revolution.
The second massive opportunity is solidifying Pakistan's role as the undisputed connectivity hub for the heartland states.
This means ensuring Gwadar is not only operational but secure and highly competitive. It must provide safe, efficient, and cost-effective passage for all the landlocked states, the CARs, Afghanistan, Iran, and the GCC states. Gwadar must aggressively market itself as the shortest, most viable route to the sea. The success of the GCK model depends on Pakistan acting as the dynamic catalyst for this trade,
Right.
even entertaining the future possibility of granting direct transit access to India once security and trust frameworks are in place.
This brings us to the proposal for deep industrial cooperation, the idea of leveraging the region's shared cotton resource base. Tell us more about the proposed Pakistan Central Asia cotton and textile cartel.
This cartel idea is a key tenet of the geoeconomic concept. Both Central Asia, so Uzbekistan and Turkmenistan and Pakistan, are significant cotton producers. Officials have suggested initiating joint production and processing projects, leveraging Pakistan's established textile industry and port access in Karachi and Gwadar.
What's the rationale? Why a cartel structure specifically?
If materialized, this cartel, possibly structured under the Economic Cooperation Organization, the EKO framework, would multiply regional trade by billions. It would establish a common market for textiles, allowing Central Asian cotton to be efficiently processed and exported globally via the Arabian Sea, drastically reducing their reliance on longer routes.
I see.
This form of deep economic cooperation naturally spills over, following neo-functionalism theory, leading to cooperation in other critical sectors like natural gas, oil pipelines, and communications infrastructure.
But the implementation challenges for aligning such disparate economies must be immense. What are the key hurdles they must overcome?
The hurdles are massive and often bureaucratic. They include harmonizing customs procedures, standardizing border regulations, mitigating currency risks for interregional trade, and, crucially, maintaining the physical security and resilience of the infrastructure against external attack and natural disaster. A trade cartel is only as strong as its weakest link, and customs issues alone can cripple transit efficiency.
Finally, let's address the necessary strategic and diplomatic maneuvers required to navigate the high-stakes power game in the Rimland.
Diplomatically, Pakistan must adopt a comprehensive maritime commercial policy that formally enshrines its extended continental shelves as a core national interest. The Navy needs to be viewed not just as a defender, but as an enabler of this economic policy, aspiring to be a major maritime power that can secure the trade routes, much like the plan's role in China's socioeconomic development.
And to counter India's dominant influence in the IOR, they need to join the existing institutional frameworks.
They must aggressively lobby for full membership in the Indian Ocean Rim Association, or IORA, a body currently dominated by India's narrative. Membership would provide a platform for Pakistan to negotiate, build crucial diplomatic relationships, and enhance its naval cooperation with other IOR littoral states.
And that includes joint exercises.
Yes, this includes proactively building naval alliances and conducting regular exercises like the Regional Maritime Security Patrols, which they initiated back in 2018.
And the diplomatic dividends from CPEC itself need to be leveraged beyond the region, particularly with East Asia.
That requires a formal refocusing of the Vision East Asia policy. CPEC provides the physical, ground-level access. Furthermore, Pakistan should negotiate strategic access to Chinese-controlled ports in the Asian Tigers region, mirroring the precedent where China granted landlocked Nepal access to 4 Chinese ports to boost its own economic and military relationships and diversify its trade access points away from the immediate IOR rivalry.
And we can't overlook soft power, especially given the threats posed by non-traditional security challenges like climate change.
Soft power and maritime diplomacy are essential for reputation building and alliance formation. Pakistan is globally recognized as the fifth most climate vulnerable country. This vulnerability can be leveraged to build alliances and enhance international outreach by focusing on shared non-traditional security issues like climate change mitigation, humanitarian assistance, and cultural tourism.
So improving its soft image while securing international relief and broader cooperative frameworks.
Exactly. The ultimate policy roadmap must unify military defense with commercial interests to translate its geography into lasting economic leverage.
This has been a profound deep dive. We've established that Pakistan's geography places it at the absolute intersection of global power politics, from Mackinder's inland pivot state to Spykman's coastal rimland theory. The CPEC project is not a random investment. It is the modern fulfillment of an ancient historic destiny, providing a critical bypass to the world's most congested choke point.
The conclusion is stark. Pakistan holds a profound strategic opportunity, but its fate hinges entirely on its ability to execute a sustained, coherent, and unified Blue Revolution strategy. That means effectively securing and bridging the Eurasian heartland and the maritime rimland through Gwadar, while successfully navigating the intense power politics and sophisticated containment strategies arrayed against it by regional and global competitors.
The conflict over maritime rights and strategic choke points is certainly nothing new. It takes us back to the classic naval theorists who framed this whole dynamic. We have Mahan, who emphasized decisive battles and concentrated fleets to achieve sea control, versus Julian Corbett, who focused on limited aims, localized control, and securing crucial sea lanes of communication.
The question for Pakistan, as it defends its $1 billion annual transit revenue and its CPEC infrastructure, is this. Does securing the pivot rimland anchor require a massive Mahan-esque military buildup that risks bankrupting the economy? Or will a more subtle, Corbett-style focus on secure, limited control of sea lanes, combined with overwhelming economic leverage derived from the Blue Revolution, ultimately win the day against the great powers competing in the rimland? The balancing act between fleet action and economic power defines their geoeconomic future.